Guys, before we dive into everything, don't forget all the housekeeping. Hit that thumbs up, hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, all those goodies. Please stay tuned. Lee, as always, will have some content coming your way later today. But yeah, another disappointing draw. Points dropped. Listen, I think this one I think is a very, very interesting one because your initial instinct is you really want to be disappointed, and I am very disappointed. But I think there is also a lot of weird mitigating things we've talked about back behind scenes. It's hard to point fingers at any one person. We'll get into it. Maybe you guys disagree with me. Maybe there are some people you want to point fingers at. Chat, let us know if there's anybody you want to point fingers at. But it's just, let's get into it. Obviously, the lineups was the starting talking point. With all our injuries, I think it was pretty much what we expected. Was there any surprises from your guys' end for the starting lineup?
No, I think, like you said, we're riddled with injuries, aren't we? So I think, not that it picks itself, but bar one or two, maybe, I think,
the only one, and it's hard to criticize after the performance, was, going into this, you'd maybe say you'd want to see Barnes over Gordon, but I would say, hard to blame Gordon for really anything that's went on today in the outcome. I think he finally gave us a performance. Let's hope that's a sign of things to come. What about you, Connor? Any real qualms with the starting lineup?
No, not really, given the circumstances. I mean, the Gordon one's a fair point. I think we all would have felt Anthony Gordon. You could have started Harvey Barnes, but Gordon did give us a performance, and
he did.
To be fair, on another day, he has more assists to his name than he does, because, I mean, at the end of the first half, and we'll talk about it, Woltemade's got to score. That's a big chance, arguably, very similar to the goal we did score just a few minutes before. So Gordon did everything you would want him to do. The only other one I suppose raises a slight eyebrow is when you seen Lewis Miley at right back again, because he struggled there against Fulham during the week. I mean, we'd said it in our chat, he looked a bit lost at times against Fulham. And don't get me wrong, today was a far better performance all round than the Fulham one, even though, weirdly, we beat Fulham with a worse performance than we had today.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Probably not ideal having Miley there. I will say we'll get into it more. Thanks for the chats. Dominique is saying maybe he's blaming Eddie Howe. We got a Chelsea fan in the chat. Welcome, Musa. He says he doesn't. They don't deserve the point after that terrible first half. Appreciate your honesty. Yeah, it feels a little hard giving away a point to you, given everything. But yeah, it was definitely a frustrating day at the office. Keep your chats coming. So obviously, I mean, I don't even really think there's much to break down in the first half other than just the domination. I mean, that was probably the best half of football we've seen all season. Would anyone disagree?
Definitely not, no. 100%. I can't believe I'm saying this at 2-0, but it should have been 4 at least. Woltemade's got to score, like Connor says, for his third, and that's a hat-trick. And then you'd like to think, given our record, even that's game over. But you just cannot, unless we get 10, it's not. So I think there is a bit of an issue there mentally as well. Like there's only Brentford who's dropped more from winning positions than we have. So I think, Eddie Howe's going to get slaughtered in the press conference for it. But yeah, I just don't know why he's
solved. We'll get into that because, to be honest, I think he's probably the one that's going to get the most blame sent to him. And I'm curious your thoughts, but we'll get into that. I mean, let's start with some of the positives. I mean, right out the gate, Woltemade getting the monkey off of his back after that unfortunate own goal on the previous weekend. I mean, just really great for him. Well taken, good positioning. And I'm just taken confident. I mean, how many times have we seen with him sometimes where he doesn't need to roof it, but I mean, he just roofed that one, like, left nothing to chance on that. So great finish by Woltemade. And then the second one was also very, very good. Fortunately, Caicedo's trailing foot did keep him on, because I was a little nervous about that one. It was quite close. The only thing I will say that was quite annoying is I thought we now had semi-automatic offsides. If that was all that was being done, how was the line not done in about 10, 20 seconds? That's the only thing I don't get there.
Because, and I don't know if it was, if they didn't mention it on your stream, because I obviously appreciate you're in the States, but certainly over here, the explanation given in the commentary box was that the semi-automated offside system was not working during that incident. So we do have it, but it seems to conveniently stop working just when you really need it. So it took its time to do it. They had to manually draw the lines, which is always dodgy. I mean, when I first seen it, I was fairly confident it was on, because Caicedo's trailing leg was so far back. The only part of Woltemade's body that was arguably in front of him was his hand, but you can't be offside with your hand, because you obviously can't gain an advantage by using your hand.
Well, that's the only thing that would have been offside. And that was one of the things I was getting ready to talk about if it was called, because, I know I'm over here in the States. I didn't grow up, and certain things may seem weird to me that you guys just accept as normal. But how can you be offside with a part of your body that you're not allowed to score with? If I can't score with my arm.
Nowadays, they've changed it so you can't be, because they have had instances in the past. I remember, was it 2 years ago, Patrick Bamford for Leeds got flagged as offside because he pointed. He literally pointed to his compadre where he wanted the ball played, and that point made his arm offside. So they have slightly made adjustments, because that's preposterous. If it's below the shot line, you can't gain an advantage from that. So it shouldn't be. That is to say, if they do it properly.
Yeah.
We know.
Okay, fair enough.
That they don't always do that, even as proved in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was just, So obviously, I think there was a little bit of push from them around the 37th minute. I mean, that was the first little spell they had. They did have a couple that made us a little nervous, but then again, we calmed things down, and Woltemade ended the half missing that chance. I mean, listen, it happens, but it's just one of those things where there was something in my gut even then that said that is going to matter, and it did matter in the end. But all in all, a good first half. I really don't. I mean, was there anything that you guys can think of in the first half? Because obviously we have plenty of negative to get into in the second half. I mean, was there anything in the first half that you guys felt to be critical on?
I think this is probably a negative, but Anthony Gordon, if he plays like that every week, it's so frustrating, because he can be such a good player. Like, he is a good player, don't get me wrong, but I think he thrives off confidence, doesn't he? And when he's got all the confidence in the world and he's scoring, he's probably one of the best wingers in the league, and he's guaranteed for England. But he just doesn't do it often enough. Like today, he looked from the first touch, he looked on it, which was so refreshing to see. But yeah, it's just I thought he was our best player by a mile in the first half, but it's just a shame he can't do it consistently.
Yeah, we need to see that consistently.
I totally agree, because to me, what frustrates me is it's easy for him to do it in big games like this. It's a big game today. You're playing Chelsea, top four in the league. It's always a massive occasion. We've got a fairly decent record as well at home against Chelsea over the recent years. Knocked them out of the cup, of course, last year. So it's easy to see him turn up in these games and in the Champions League where he's been playing well. But it's the frustration, as Jacob said, that he's not more consistent with it. He's not turning up when we're playing Burnley. He's not turning up when we're playing a massive derby game against Sunderland last week, for example. Those are the kind of games he needs to learn to take a bit more seriously. The only one of that type that he turns up to is Everton, but that's just because that's his former club. And he gets a little bit of abuse for them, so he wants to give them something back. Apart from that, he's got to be more consistent.
So in chat, we got an Arsenal fan. He said Barnes better than Anthony Gordon. I think we would all agree on that for this season's form. Would you agree that holistically? I know as you just said, I think that's the main complaint, as you just alluded to, Connor, that many of us have with Anthony Gordon. Would you guys still say that Barnes is better holistically? Like, who do you think, if we hypothetically traded one, who's going to give you more of a return? Let's put it that way. Who are you going to get more money for, do you think?
You'll get more money for Gordon, I think. But I think Barnes is a lot more consistent. You know what you get with Barnes. So, depends.
Except for when he misses the post.
Barnes. I literally jumped off my bed and celebrated. I was like, oh my God, it's not in. Like, how would that not go in? It was like that far off. But yeah, it is what it is.
In the words of our good friend, Joe Kenja, we love you. Hopefully he's in the chat. Barnes.
I bet you celebrated that as well.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with Barnes, isn't it? He has, I mean, in terms of return, clearly this season Barnes has got more goals, so you've had more of a return from him, 7, and he's been playing well recently. But he does have, I suppose, so does Anthony Gordon. This is the problem. They both have their moments where you're frustrated with him. They've both got that little inconsistency at times. I mean, Barnes has a knack of missing chances that you just think, how have you missed? You know, it's incredible. I mean, that one there, it's absolutely brilliant football that we've played in the build-up. I mean, it is superb. And the ball from Bruno Guimaraes is pinpoint. I mean, it is on a plate. I appreciate it's not necessarily easy as such when it's coming down at you like that. But what frustrates me is he wants to open his foot out and place that too often. Just catch that with the laces and volley that into the roof of the net. Because even if it's towards the goalkeeper, if you put enough power in that with a volley, he ain't saving it. And if he is, he's getting in the net with it. That, to me, that's what frustrates me. He's trying to be precise all the time, but that's the type of situation where I don't think you can be precise, because then you're leaving a bit to luck, whereas just get the laces through it.
And you also, just like the goal that Vista scored during the week, you don't know even if the goalie gets his hand to it. There's no way the goalie is catching that ball. So even if the goalie saves it, you don't know where that bounces to then leave an empty net. You know, in those kind of situations, I always just say, just get it on net. But before we jump too far ahead, thank you all for watching. Please, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up. Let's try to get us to 50 likes this video. It would really mean the world to us. But yeah, let's just get into the second half. I mean, I think this is where most of the talking points are going to be at this point, and we'll just start with their goal, because that was pretty early on. I'm going to ask you a quick question before we get into the goal itself. Do you think that was a slightly soft free kick? Because I almost didn't feel like it was a free kick.
I think it's one of those where if you're on the other end of it, you want a free kick.
Yeah, fair.
I think it is I think a yellow is harsh, to be fair, but
they gave a yellow for that? I forgot that. Yeah.
I think it's probably the positioning of the foul that probably got the yellow card, because it was a fairly dangerous attack. But yeah, it's soft, but I think it just probably is. Yeah,
it's just like in the context of other things we're going to come to later. You know, there wasn't that much power in Ramsey on Palmer. Cole Palmer. But yeah, it just, I was honestly, I mean, I know it's probably been said many times, but man, does he just have like the most punchable face in the world. But anyways, that I digress. People will probably say that about me. So fair play if there's any of the Chelsea fans still in the chat. I'm just making a joke. But anyways, on to the kick itself. I know we had a little bit of disagreement, Jake, you and me. I think if there's anyone to blame, I'm blaming Bruno, because Bruno didn't look like he really jumped to me, and it did not look like the ball was all that above his head. I'm not saying he could have gotten all of it, but if he even gets a piece of that, who knows where that then deflects to?
No, he should jump 100%, because the ball is not going to go under the wall from that distance. Like, that's a fact. But yeah, I just think Ramsdale could not get beat from there. I know it's hit the post and in. It's a good free kick, but what is he, 25, 28 yards?
Yeah, I think he cheated too much. I mean, I'm not a goalie, but I think I think he started too far over.
Yeah, 100%. And you could see that from the get-go as well. So, not that I'm a goalkeeper coach, because I never will be, but it's just frustrating that you could see it earlier on.
Yeah.
Mm.
What are your thoughts, Connor?
Well, I am a former goalie, and for me, former being the operative word, obviously. But I tell you, he's a few steps too far over.
Okay.
The problem is that free kick, it's a lot more central than you think. It's not one of those ones that is like, oh, it's right, it's at the edge of the box, it's to the left, so you pack a wall over there and you just protect your side because the wall should protect that side. When it's more central like that, it opens up both avenues for the free kick taker to go at, even with the ball, because he's always going to have an angle to get it up and over.
Yeah.
So you cannot afford to just simply park yourself across to one side thinking that's where I'll protect. And effectively, that's what's happened because he's gone too far over. He then can't get back quick enough. Yes, it kisses the post, so there's a question of whether he would get there anyway, but he would have given himself far more of a chance of doing so. I also agree on the Bruno thing. As a goalkeeper, if I'm Aaron Ramsdale there, I'm getting back up and I am screaming at my captain there. Why haven't you jumped? Again, he might not necessarily get it. He might deflect it, but he's the only one in the wall who stays.
Didn't jump. If it was a couple feet over, it hits Fabian Schär's head. It hits Malick Thiaw's head.
Exactly, because they jump. If he jumps, it might hit his head. It's the fact that he stays and it's over his head that goes to that corner. There's not an awful lot of power in that free kick. It's a
No,
good.
it was a looper. He put the curve on it.
It's precision is what it is. It's a real precise, finesse free kick. And fair play to Reece James. He's done well, but I just think again is an example of us just gifting goals. Yeah, I mean, I think both goals today we've gifted to Chelsea.
The second one was definitely a gift, but it's also hard to really go that hard on Chow. Listen, things like that unfortunately do happen. As terrible as it is, obviously Chow didn't mean that. But before we get to that, so it sounds like we're all kind of on the same page. We all feel like as much as credit to where credit is due, Reece James did take it well. It sounds like we all do feel like it still was savable, and we probably did not set up for it perfectly. But then the big thing comes at 2-1. I mean, I don't know what I saw happen in the box. I'm pretty sure I saw an American football tackle, an ice hockey. I mean, listen, I think we've all agreed it is shoulder on shoulder. And yes, shoulder on shoulder is allowed. But if that happened, my classic thing is if that happens anywhere else, there is not a chance in the world. If that happens in midfield, the official is not saying that he used unnecessary force. How many times has Fabian Schär got a yellow card for basically doing that in the midfield, just shouldering to shoulder too hard?
It's just, where do you draw the line? I was saying to you, like, before we went live, like, can you just do that as hard as you want then, as long as you're side to side and the ball's within a meter or two? Can you just power into someone from the side? You can't do it. Like, I think everyone agrees that it's clear. It'd be interesting to see if they apologise for that, because that is a clear and obvious error. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. To me, it just, my biggest thing is, even beyond the force, sometimes force, and I'll get let you jump in, Connor. Sometimes I can accept the force if it still looks like there was a genuine attempt for the ball in the process. But he never even put his foot out to try and take the ball. He just clearly was trying to shoulder barge him. That was all his defensive attempt is. And again, I'm not saying that within reason, you're not allowed to do that. But if you're only shoulder barging, then I think force becomes relevant, because you can't just run through anyone.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, to me, you've got to be making a genuine attempt to play the ball.
Yeah.
That is absolutely paramount. First and foremost, it has to be a genuine, legitimate attempt to play the ball. It wasn't. Chalobah's only concern was with wiping out Anthony Gordon. That's why that's a foul and why it's a penalty kick. I mean, the fact is as well, if you look at a couple of weeks ago against Spurs, we get a penalty kick that might be classed as soft, but the reason it's given is exactly what we are talking about, because
Yeah.
it isn't an attempt to play the ball by the defender. The defender is only trying to stop Dan Burn, has only decided to wrap himself around him. If he's looking at the ball and there's an attempt, it's probably not given because it would be classed as where they're both grappling with each other. So that's the exact same situation today. Shoulder tackles, as you both said, and you're right, it's part of football. You're allowed a shoulder tackle. You have to be trying to get the ball, or at least make it look like you're trying to get the ball. Neither applied there. And again, how VAR look at that, because I agree. I think Jacob said it before. I understand, as much as I don't particularly like Anthony Madley, I think he's one of the worst referees. I understand why he doesn't give that on the park. I understand why.
I do too.
I'm not sure, but VAR's got to help him there. How can you look at that? Peter Banks in VAR and not send the referee to the monitor, because he's nowhere near the ball, Chalobah. And the reasoning they gave that popped up on my television was that it was a shoulder tackle within reaching distance of the ball. What does that even? If it's within reaching distance of the ball, can I clothesline someone then? Is that it doesn't make just doesn't make any sense. They've got it wrong, and it's a big moment, because if we get that, our conversion rate from penalties is pretty good. Anthony Gordon almost certainly would step up and score that.
Yeah.
3-1, game's dead, because that really,
and then that would nip all the momentum in the bud. Yeah, I fully agree with you. And shout out couple in chat, Jordan, a regular. Good to see you, buddy. Hello. Also, hold on. We'll get to talking about Eddie. So hang with us. I know a couple want to talk about Eddie.
What's
but go ahead.
The Premier League Match Centre's tweeted contact on the the collision was deemed to be side to side in a shielding action. How is that a shielding action?
Who's supposed to be shielding the ball? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just insane to me.
And they've turned off the replies, so there you go.
Yeah, I mean, there were so well, and actually, I forgot. Was it earlier in the second half? Because I think it's one of the ones that's more like, in the grand scheme of this, it's going to be the one that's forgotten. Woltemade's back heel that handballed. I mean, listen, Reece James or Chalobah, I forget who it was. There was no intention there, but this is not a regular position. And if that ball did not hit his hand, that would have probably cleanly gone right into the center of the box. And maybe, I forget who was the runner there. I think that was still Gordon at that point. Gordon could have had a good chance. Again, I'm not like, it would have been a little bit harsh, don't get me wrong. I don't think there was any intent in it. I mean, how could there be? He probably wasn't expecting the back heel. But at the end of the day, if your hand is out here and you prevent the ball from continuing on its path, I don't get it. So that's another one that I think will.
Well, I would say, when the officials mic'd up program goes out with Howard Webb and your friend and mine's Michael Owen, then I think clearly it'll be interesting to hear back the VAR audio from particularly the Chalobah incident, whether they play the handball one. I mean, they should, because again, it would be interesting to hear. I wouldn't be surprised either way if Howard Webb comes out and says, "Yeah, no, we got that wrong. That should have been a penalty kick." Wouldn't surprise me. Equally, wouldn't be surprised if he comes out and defends his officials, because it sounds to me like they're using verbiage there that's designed to get them a get out. Because it might be going to press him on it because he can't. He's not got time.
Well, and at this point, I don't even care about there being an apology or anything unless there's actually something more that comes with it. Because, like, apology doesn't change anything. Like, I understand that people are human and they make mistakes and whatever. Like, but I don't know what would be the appropriate repercussion, but I feel like there has to be something, because it's just like, it's not enough. And this is not just a Newcastle thing. We've seen it happen to every single team in the Premier League at some point or another, get shafted out of points for this. Like, and there needs to be more than just an apology. Like, if it's that blatant, like, I don't know what it could be, but there needs to be more than just an apology, because, apologies doesn't change anything.
I'd rather them not apologise and just ignore it.
To be honest, it's almost more annoying knowing that you're saying, actually it should have been, and now I get to sit here and say, well, if that should have been, then the game probably would have never unfolded as it did. Yeah. So, anyways, right after that, not long after the shoulder barge, then we had the goal. Obviously, Chow slips. One thing I do want to point out, just because I find it interesting, this is just an observation. How many times do we see, Dan Burn, Fabian Schär, whatever, get in the goalie's way, be a nuisance to prevent that kick? And I'm not saying this is his fault, but Woltemade did not really make a big effort to kind of slow it down and allowed that to get launched. Again, I'm not in zero way saying it's Woltemade's fault, but it is sometimes interesting to observe how we think those little things don't matter, but they actually make such a massive deal. You just never know.
Yeah, they do matter. I mean, that's part of gamesmanship you expect in any game, that you do that. You stop the keeper taking the kick out early, because clearly when you've just had a set-piece opportunity and everybody's pushed up the park, you're going to be a bit exposed. They'll have somebody as their out ball. The keeper's always going to try and find that ball. Now, that is the frustration. It's such a one-dimensional goal we can see. I mean, you can't... I know it's a slip and you can't be too harsh on Malick Thiaw, but for me, I look at it and I think, okay, Thiaw slips. Why is there such a massive gap, though, between him and the other centre-back? What's going on there? I mean, you could drive 2 double-decker buses in that gap. It was ridiculous. And the problem is, as soon as Thiaw slips, he's not going to get back at him. He can't pull him down because he'll get sent off. And then, because there's such a gap with the other centre-back, Schär isn't been able to get back in time, so you're hoping for a miracle. You're hoping for a wonder save from Aaron Ramsdale, and unfortunately we didn't get it. But they have to be closer together in that situation, because it allows the opportunity, at least if one of you does maybe slip or whatever, you've got cover coming round, and we just didn't. And it's such a poor goal to concede from our point.
Yeah, it's abysmal.
Back, as you say, all the way to the edge of their box. Stop the ball at the source. Don't let the keeper get the ball away early. If you have to take a booking there, take a booking. Because you'd rather that than put Thiaw in a situation where if he brings a player down, he's having to take a red card.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, Chow should have just taken him out on that first thing. That would have been a yellow. Sure, you slipped, just take it. Who knows? Maybe even the official will think, yes, you fouled him, but it was because you slipped, and doesn't even give you a yellow. But, I mean, yeah, I think it's hard. Jake, what was your thoughts on that one? Before I'm going to ask you a question, Connor, as the goalie union.
No, I was just about to say, it looks as if on the replay from the corner, well, I think it was a corner, wasn't it, that they scored from, before the goal.
Yeah.
Chow and Pedro were literally one-on-one on their own, so it looked like it was pre-planned. So I don't know if Eddie Howe was like, yeah, I'm going to back you, Malick, to deal with the situation effectively, but you can't really plan for a slip like that as well. So it's one of those where, is it bad management, but it's just a little bit unlucky. I don't know personally, but yeah.
So, interesting shout from Hank. He's saying he blames Gordon because he calls everyone up and then gives the crappy corner. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, those things play a part of it, but at the same time, how many abysmal, almost waste of a corner have we seen all season? I mean, you could point that at many people.
Look at the height we got on our team. We should do better from set pieces in general.
Oh, we should
on our team. And I mean, the most deadly and lethal we looked was away every time a cross came in the box. We did look like we could score. Malick Thiaw scores twice with his head. That was as good as we have looked from aerial play, whether it's from corners or throw-ins or whatever. But we're just not there yet. I do think, and some people might disagree, that is where we miss Kieran Trippier, because Kieran Trippier at his best, the ability he has even now to whip a ball in, there is nobody, in my opinion, better than him in full flow. The problem is,
I think there's one key phrase that you said there, Connor: at his best.
Yes,
at his best does not happen often anymore, in my opinion. I fully agree with you. on his day, he has the best cross in him. But more often than not, we see just as wasteful crosses from him as Jacob Murphy.
Yeah. What seems weird to me though is, like, I know you can have a corner taken depending on what side you're taking it from, but we have Hall taking them, Miley taking them, Tonali taking them, Bruno taking them. Like, why do we have so many different? You should have 2 corner takers max, 1 for each side probably.
Yeah.
I just find it a little bit odd. How it's almost saying like, oh, well, he's not working, let's put someone else on.
Yeah. The one thing I did want to ask you, Connor, from the goalkeeper side, again, not being a goalie, I thought maybe when Ramsdale saw Chow slip, he maybe could have tried to cut the angle more, but maybe you would argue that would have opened him up to be chipped. And also, I thought it was, in the end, I know it's easier said than done in the moment, but when you then see where the ball was placed, I mean, it was a millimeter next to his foot. Just get something on it. I mean, it did feel like it was not really well placed in the end. Or am I just wishful thinking?
Yeah, it's difficult in that situation. You're almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because if he does charge out a bit more, then as you say, that does open up the possibility of him being chipped. Now, you could argue that a player trying to chip you is a harder finish to pull off.
That's what my thought is he would have been a good ways out if he tries to do that and maybe he fluffs it.
Yeah, he could. It could be risky, but it's a gamble either way. I think, though, once he's starting to storm into the box, I would have liked to have seen Ramsdale be a bit quicker in the draw in terms of get out and get at his feet, try and smother. Because when you go feet first to try and get it, as you say, it's millimetres from his feet. But because he's starfished it, which, by the way, is again, another tactic that goalkeepers you're told to make yourself as big as possible. So that's what he's done. It's the old Peter Schmeichel starfish,
Yeah.
The problem is when you do that and it's low at your feet, you've got less, believe it or not, as a goalkeeper, you get much less reach and chance with your feet of getting that than with your hands. Because with your hand, even if you fingertip it, you can always get a flick on it with your fingertip that would take it past the post. Whereas with your feet, you don't have that same type of movement just because you're wearing boots, effectively, instead of gloves. So it's a tough one. I'm sure he would probably feel, looking back at it, maybe I could get quicker. But ultimately, he's banging trouble the minute Thiaw slips. And he's hoping that by throwing himself and making himself big, that maybe Pedro makes him. I mean, the thing is, if Pedro decides to try and drag it back towards the near post, almost certainly saves it, because that's where his bigger part of his body is. So it's unlucky, although your points are valid to say those are choices he could have made, and it might or might not have made the difference.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it is split-second decisions, and it's it's easy to say in hindsight. Yeah, Joel, we agree with you. We did talk a lot about that earlier. So if you rewind a little bit, we did comment about his first goal. We thought it was a little bit of poor reading. Thank you for joining us, Hank, all the way from Asia. Have a good evening. But yeah, I think it's frustrating. But two main more talking points. Obviously, again, I'm going to save the Eddie Howe chat for last because it's probably the biggest thing to discuss. But I want to talk because, listen, I'm no tactician. You guys have probably played a lot more football than I have, so you have more knowledge than me. Me and Jake were talking about it. This narrative of a lot of these games we've blown it because we sat back, I don't think that applies today. I think we got burned actually when we were pressing. Even some of the chances that in the end didn't come to fruition for Chelsea, but some of those moments that made us nervy were off of pinches in the midfield or a 50-50 that we didn't get the call, or we did get the call. And I think my point being this is, as we segue into the Eddie chat, is as angry and as frustrating as this is, like, what could we have done differently tactically? Do you think there was anything we did wrong that made us blow this? Or was this just one of those, listen, life isn't fair and sometimes this happens?
it's one of those where we don't want to sit back, especially 45, 50 minutes in. That's just going to invite pressure for the next half. You don't want that. But we were playing the game as if we were 2-0 down all game. And I thought we were a little bit too open at times. It's just finding that middle ground, that balance, isn't it? Of where, depending on what minute you're in and what the score is, it's difficult. Like you say, I'm not a tactician either, so Eddie will obviously know far better than I will. I don't know. We just played as if we're losing the game all game. And whilst that's good in the first half, because you want to get the crowd on your side, especially for an early kickoff, it's just sometimes I think we do miss that number 6 who will just sit there all game, because we play with a flat 3 in the middle, and it does show sometimes. They have Caicedo today, who's perfect. I think that's probably where a lot of the issues are, but then again, I could be very wrong.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Connor?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think we necessarily sat back. I think today was slightly different in the manner in which we dropped the points. I mean, all round, let's be fair, of all the games we've dropped points from winning positions in, this is the first one that we've dropped from being 2-0 up. Because all those other games were 1-0 up and got pegged back, and then, we conceded twice and, and went on to lose, and particularly in the second halves. It's twofold for me. Number one, we're not starting second halves very well at all. We finished the first half flying today. I mean, it was brilliant. And over here, they had Eddie Howe doing a halftime interview, which I think is
preposterous. Yeah, no, they showed that, and I was just like,
he should be in the changing room. If somebody has to do it, send Jason Tyndall to do it then. But for me, but we played so well, and then we came out in the second half, and it was like, right, okay, well, we're 2-0 up. We don't quite need to be the same intensity that we started the first. Yeah, you do. Just get right back in amongst it, go for the jugular, get that third goal, and it's game over. Go and score that third goal, and then you can take the foot off the gas a bit. Then you can start to assess the situation and go, right, here's changes I can make and what I can look at. So that's been costing us. There's also elements of just naivety. I mean, there's one point, Moises Caicedo picks the ball up just about the halfway line, runs with the ball for about 25 yards, not even a full belt run, just a sort of jog. Nobody comes out to him. Not one player in a Newcastle shot closes the space down, and he gets a free shot off from about 30 yards, 25 yards out. Now, he places it wide, but if he scores that goal, what are you doing? Why isn't someone has to come out there and stop that? So it's those moments where we just seem to be switching off for some reason that's frustrating. I also think the nature of when we're choosing, and I know we'll segue on to it, but when we're choosing to make changes as well, we shouldn't be waiting until it's 2-2 to make the 3 changes we did, because the tempo of our play and our intensity, the levels went up when we made the change to the front 3. When we brought on Barnes, Alanga and Visa, albeit Alanga frustrates the living daylights out of me with some of these play at times. These are things you need to look at as well, because if maybe you're just running out of steam a little bit, which happens when you play at the intensity that we do. So yeah, it's annoying. 13 points dropped from winning positions. It's not good enough. It's why we're where we are in the league. But equally, at the start of this game today, even though it's at home, I think you probably would have accepted 2-2 at the start of the game. If somebody had said to the start, listen, you'll take a point, you probably wouldn't have looked at it as the worst point in the world, because Chelsea are in very good form right now. And we are off the back of a tricky game midweek where we didn't particularly perform well. So, it is very frustrating.
It'll definitely be interesting to see how we react to this against United on Boxing Day, because it's an 8 p.m. kickoff, and I think the vibe will be a little bit different. I'm not sure why. Obviously it's an away game as well, so yeah. But yeah, I've got a dash on here, guys, so I'll catch you later. Okay,
thanks, buddy. I want to bring this one up, and I think this is really fitting and a good segue. Shout out Tino, thanks for joining us. But he mentioned about the risk aversion of how, and it may cost him the job, but he backs him till the end of the season. And I think that last sentence, to be honest, I agree with the whole thing, to be honest. And I'm curious your take. This is what, to me, I find so challenging when we're talking about how to approach this with, and Eddie is, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that Eddie shouldn't be getting any kind of criticism. There are criticisms to be made, as you alluded to. We can talk about timing of substitutions, in-game management has been a long time complaint of his. But I guess I'm going to go to you, like, where do you stand, Connor? Do you think it's time to move on? Is the experiment, do you think he's reached his max, basically? I guess is the easiest way to put it. Or do you think, because here's my fear. As much as I do have my concerns, and there becomes a point, just like last year, when things keep happening, you can't just keep on ignoring it. As much as I am often accused of being the happy clapper and things like that. But at the same time, it's hard for me to know, like, kind of like what we've talked about, what could have been different to really affect this? I mean, other than timing, we can speculate that would make a difference, but we really have no way of knowing that. I mean, yes, you can make a case for it, but you could also make a case it won't. So that was a very long-winded question, but kind of where do you stand on how, because I agree with what Tino said there. To me, bare minimum, I am giving Eddie to the end of the season. I think he has earned that personally. But I'm curious if you would agree.
Well, you've got to give him to the end of the season, unless things start going disastrously wrong, and you end up in an unbelievable losing streak. I think you've got to. I mean, context is key here. I think there are a number of factors. I mean, once again, we're sitting here similarly to what we did 2 years ago in a campaign where we're playing in the Champions League and we're struggling domestically. And we're having those issues of balancing the amount of games we're playing. It doesn't get any easier because in January, yet another cup competition is starting for us as well in the FA Cup, which is not going to be easy in the slightest. And so you've got to try and balance and juggle all these plates together. And he's doing it with a squad that you look around and think, not so sure, because there's a number of injuries at the moment. And I think, listen, January is going to be key for him. There has been reports that we will be spending money in January this year, which would make a pleasant change because we've not done that really the last couple of years. So, but I think it's a must. I think we need a right back in there. I think we need a centre back in there. We need another midfield option, ideally, for me. I also think as well, when you're looking at, he's just got Johan Visa back to full fitness to be able to play, which is a positive. I would like to see him maybe at times go, do you know what? Let me just put two strikers on here. They're getting a lot of chances. Let's get two strikers on and let's really ask the questions of their fullbacks. It's difficult, I appreciate that, and we'll still obviously Ursula still being out doesn't help. But he is in a situation where, in the bigger picture, we're okay in the Champions League. We're almost certainly going to be at least in the playoffs of the Champions League, if not potentially in that top 8. Because for me, I expect that we should be able to beat PSV at home. I know it won't be easy. I know PSV hammered Liverpool, but it's a very poor Liverpool side that they beat. We're better on our home turf this season than they've been. So he's got that going for him. We're in another League Cup semi-final. I mean, he has been a League Cup specialist since he came into Newcastle. He is,
and it should be 4 in a row. If it wasn't for a moment of just chaos, it would be 4 years in a row.
Yeah, so that's an astonishing achievement that he's had there. A third League Cup semi-finals. Usually this would be 4. All right, it's against City, and unlike the last 2, this time round we'll be playing away from home in the second leg, which will be tough. But those are the things that keep him in a job right now. But there's no doubt that the pressure's on him because we cannot keep dropping points from winning positions. You can't allow that to continue. And what worries me is when he's been asked about it, he doesn't seem to have an answer. He's not sure in and of himself why it keeps happening. And so that's something to look at. I would also ask, if you got rid of Eddie Howe, who are you bringing in? All the good managers of our caliber are taken.
Yeah, that's the big thing that I say out there is, like, I'm not going to pretend like there are not better coaches out there, but who's going to come, who's available, and things like that. And I think one of the biggest things, and listen, you guys can slaughter me in the comments if you want, but I think there is a continued element, just like you alluded to 2 years ago. I think sometimes our success has shot ourselves in the foot because we're still not there. And we're also in a very different world than, say, teams that tried to do what we're doing right now did 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you could just keep throwing money. And the league does not allow it. This is why we complain about PSR. Is because this is actually, like, I know it's kind of dumb and like tinfoily hat, but to me, this is why Newcastle is losing these kind of games. This is why PSR is why like squad depth is important. Because do you think they didn't want to go and get more fullbacks? Do you think they didn't want to go and get more, center backs? That, we don't actually have that many injuries. It's just the concentration. And this is where PSR prevents us from doing that. We're playing freaking Lewis Miley, who, by the way, like, all the chaos aside, I mean, listen, that's probably terrible for audio. I won't do it long, but
he was given
Lewis Miley looks more and more like a valid option there when push comes to shove than, being a liability. But my point being is this is why I always say every summer, don't forget every summer we remember to get angry at PSR. And every January, we remember to get mad at PSR. But then 2 months after the window closes, we all get mad at one person and we blame everything on Eddie. Eddie can only do so much with what he has, and Eddie can only have the resources that he has because of PSR. I'm not saying don't yell at Eddie. There are valid criticisms of Eddie. I think in-game management, as you said, sometimes I don't know if it's just his PR management style that he doesn't want to give things away, but I definitely agree with you. There are times when he talks about, when he's asked things, he comes across like he doesn't know the answer. Now, again, I don't know if that's just Eddie playing coy or if that is he truly doesn't know the answers. But again, I think it's so important, and I will rewind to the beginning of the season, and I think I asked this on one of our first live streams, or maybe it was in a different show on the channel, maybe not one of our live streams, but I said from day one, I didn't think we could focus on the Carabao Cup this season because we don't have the depth to do it. I said something's got to sacrifice, and what is sacrificing right now? Our league form. We're doing pretty good in the Champions League. We're doing pretty good in the Carabao Cup. The only place we ain't doing and where we're being subpar is it keeps happening in the league. It's not actually that we've had that bad of a season. I'm not saying we've had a good season, but when you look at it in the context of previous seasons, we're not miles away from where we've been in the past. It's just the context of everything. It's blowing 2-0 leads. It's, embarrassing showings in a derby that make it all so much more frustrating, just like we felt 2 years ago. It's the context of these losses that make it frustrating. But at the same time, I still think when you're in these moments, we have to really remember that the true thing to blame is this is fucking PSR's fault, in my opinion.
It's a massive, massive factor. And don't get me wrong, you still have to better utilise what you do have as well. And I think we got to do better with that. I mean, last week,
for sure,
for me, there was absolutely no excuse to not be up for that fight last week. You cannot go into a derby game and play the way we did. That is totally unacceptable. It was a gutless performance from us. Yes, we're unlucky to lose it because I don't think Sunderland were particularly.
Sunderland played shit too. They just got a lucky moment from us.
Yeah, we got a lucky break, but that's the difference. Sometimes when you're in the kind of situation where we're in, you just don't quite get that little rub of the green that you need on occasion. And that can happen. And I mean, look, I think that exacerbates things as well. People are looking at the Premier League going, Sunderland just seem to keep ticking off points. They're sitting above us at this moment in time. I would say they're not going to finish the season above us. I think we have to be clear on that. They're playing well just now. Inevitably, they're going to hit a run of form where they start losing games of football. That is what happens. We're in that run now where we're dropping some points. We'll then pick up and they'll drop off. I think we'll still make European football. I do, because it's almost harder not to in the Premier League these days. I mean, if you finish 7th, you're in the Conference League. If we manage to get to the Carabao Cup final again, you have a shout at that. So I think there's positives to take there. But PSR does give us, because we've had to sacrifice some players that otherwise we wouldn't. We lost Elliot Anderson, who we wouldn't have sold if it wasn't for PSR. Yankuba Minte, again, sold him because of PSR. Now, I would say, and this is where you can be critical of your coaching team, they didn't use him enough when he was there. He should have been given more opportunity, clearly. We didn't do that. But again, we then had to sell him on because PSR, and we had to free up room in the budget. There's also the other element of, when you know that's a restriction, we have to spend it better. Because I have to say, and some people might disagree with me, some people might agree, right now, £50 million has been wasted on Anthony Elanga. Utterly blown. We've pissed it up the wall, quite frankly.
No,
because
listen, every day
has offered nothing to justify that price tag. And if you're spending that kind of money, you need desperately those players to do the business. And so there's that element as well. But obviously, as you say, it's not like, when City were taking over, they had seasons like this where they were poor. The first season City had after their takeover, they finished 8th. It wasn't a brilliant season. They brought in a team of individuals who were good players but couldn't form a team. But they had the ability to just have a few false starts, just keep throwing money at the problem, because eventually you'll get it right.
Yep.
We don't have that. I also think as well, some of the communication and streamlining seems to have dissipated a little bit since Amanda Staveley left. I think that's been a blow to the club. But
our backroom management
Ross Wilson in there alongside Eddie Howe, and they'll have a much better relationship than Eddie Howe had with Paul Mitchell. So I think that's going to help, and hopefully we get it right, because the reinforcements are needed. We're probably going to see 1 or 2 going off the books, and that's probably required, because there's a couple there that need to go.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think actually beyond PSR, as much as I want to point the blame outside, the biggest thing I think we can point the fingers that is our fault is the Dan Ashworths, the Paul Mitchells that have not worked out. Because those have been wasted and then put unnecessary pressure on Howe in the very small periods of time when he's supposed to be able to recharge a little bit. He hasn't had the opportunity because he's had to continue to do everything. And that's why, for me, as much as I do understand the criticisms, I still every time feel like it's hard for me to be mad at the guy, because he does so much for this club. He's only human, and he will make mistakes and he will do things. But it's just like, I think the context of this game, like, Sunderland was Sunderland. But this game, I don't think you can be mad at the effort. I don't think any fan out there is mad at the effort. I think the fans are mad at the outcome today, understandably so. And I think Elanga's a good point. Every passing day, I mean, listen, there was like 2 or 3 moments where, like, what have we been told Elanga does well? Like, he's just fast as hell. And there was a couple of moments where he had that opportunity, just fucking run at the guy, and he doesn't, which is just so weird. And again, don't get me wrong, maybe he's trying to adjust his game, because generally speaking, I would say just being a running merchant doesn't probably fit our system. But at the same time, in games like this, it's kind of like one of the biggest things I miss right now of Asula is just the chaos.
Yeah, I agree.
He just brings that, like, Loki element to the football pitch. You don't know what the hell Asula is going to do.
I couldn't help but think when Aaron Ramsdale towards the end threw that ball, what a throw out it was. But for Anthony Elanga to chase. Now, I knew Elanga was going to get there all day long, because he does have pace. I couldn't help but think to myself, if Asula is the man chasing that ball and getting that ball, does that end up potentially in a goal or a lot more chaos? And I think it almost certainly does, because for me, Elanga is his decision making. He gets the ball, he does all that part right, and then when he is chopped back, you can't shoot from there. He's got Johan Visa right on the edge of the D. Sliding him. There's your striker right there.
And he had Barnes, I think, all the way on the other side too. He had 2 options.
That's what I was going to say. If he plays it to Visa can either take a touch and shoot, or he can do what I think he would more than likely have done, which is, again, one touch, move it quicker, and bang, Harvey Barnes is in one-on-one with the keeper.
Yeah.
Those are the problems you've got with Alanga. His decision-making is so poor, and he doesn't create, as you say, that feeling of havoc. I think Sula is a nightmare for defenders when he comes on off that bench, especially tired defenders, because he doesn't even know what he's going to do. So how did he know what he's going to do? It is, so for me, that's part of the big problem that we've got. And as I say, it's not been thus far a signing that's proved to be a good one. And don't get me wrong, that happens. You're not going to get every signing right. But with PSR, you don't have the luxury, because then you need to go, right, okay, we're not at that right.
And the funny thing is, that's why I always say, I think if you rewind a couple seasons ago, there was this big cry of sign Premier League proven guys. And to me, I don't care where you sign it. There's always risk. They could have been a flash in the pan. It could have been a coach using them tactically very well in a system. Just because someone does well in the league doesn't mean they're going to do well everywhere in that league. And the only thing I will say, to play a little bit of devil's advocate for Alanga, is I still think, as abysmal as these performances are, it is still early. We've seen players take longer to understand how to fit within a system. And I still think there is a chance he could come good. I'm not saying that I'm holding my breath on it, but at the end of the day, we only signed him like 5 months ago. There is still a chance. But the problem is when you spend that much money, and with all of the attention of, basically, we've been waiting on a new right winger for 3 seasons, and then for you to do it, and then this is what happens. Obviously, the scrutiny is understood. But I don't know how to say it, because again, the criticism's all valid, but at the same time, kind of like we say at times, it doesn't help also. Like, I think one of the things we have to remember, and generally as Newcastle fans, we do a really good job at this, is it's one thing post-game, you and I, we're talking about the game and complain and be frustrated. But in the stadium, you can't be groaning when he gets it. I mean, you can hear it on the TV feeds. I understand it, but that's not going to help him in the moment. I mean, I know it's not our job to help him, but at the same time, we don't want to be working against our player. Clearly, I think his head is in that rut. I think me and Jake were talking about it a couple of weeks ago. Just imagine he had put away that breakaway in that first game, like 3 minutes in. I think there's an alternate universe where he puts that in and then he's just been lights out. But I think ever since that moment, it's amazing how so many of those, it snowballs. The mental side of the game, especially you being a goalie, they always talk about the mental side of the game for goalies, but the mental side of the game is just, it's an enigma. It's hard to quantify.
Yeah, of course it is. The mentality is one of the biggest parts of the game in any position. It's a huge part, obviously, for a goalkeeper, because you're very much on a land of your own as a goalkeeper. You're isolated. But again, this is where right, here's what we need for this game. I also think, and it's noticeable, we can't react to bad results, but only every other game. Because we came out last week and it was Eddie Howe was apologising to the fans for a performance against Sunderland, and great. The good news is there's a game a couple of days around the corner against Fulham, and we came out in the first half and we stinked the gaff out. I mean, we were shocking. I mean, Fulham dominated us for most of the first half in our own backyard, and you think, where's the mentality there? Where's the response? We're still waiting, and then we got it. We managed to get through that game, and we got it in the first half today. We got the response that we were wanting to get during the week, and that is a mentality thing. It's the mentality of, you look at teams like City when they're flying, when they were winning league titles, last season's Liverpool side, even Arsenal this season. They have a ruthlessness in their mentality that we just will not stop. We're going to go and kill you on that part. And it doesn't matter. I mean, there today, Chelsea 2-0 down, they managed to get 2-2. If we're 2-0 down at Stamford Bridge, we do not get back to 2-2. We just don't. We put an effort in, we might get back to 2-1, but we don't get back to 2-2 because our mentality just hasn't quite got us there yet. Now, we've shown it at times how strong it can be. I think back to Liverpool when we're down to 10 men and we're 2-0 down at home and we get to 2-2. That was phenomenal. We switched off at the end and lost the game 3-2, again, losing late goals, which I suppose at least we didn't do that today. But that's part that we're going to have to work on and get better at as well, is just handling a little bit of pressure. I mean, because too often we've had a slight moment of adversity and we just crumble for a period of time. Marseille, Pope makes a mistake, it goes to 1-1. Okay, it's frustrating, it's annoying. Still 1 each though. Just get your head back down again and just crack on. Instead, we collapse. For 10 minutes, we just totally collapse and Marseille run over the top of us, bang, you're 2-1 down. Games, you've lost the game. Similarly, against Leverkusen, we're going so well there. We take the lead twice, but again, a little bit of pressure and hold on. So those are moments that are crucial in games that you deal with as players. Sometimes mistakes will happen. So, you know what I mean? You just have to respond to them better and just get it out of your head and move on. Dissect it in the change room. By all means, after the game when you're in the change room, you can certainly have a word. You can certainly say, hey, Popey, what are you up to? You know what I mean? You can have those conversations then, not on the park. And so if we're going to be a top side and get to that next level and start winning more trophies again, which we could still win a trophy this year. We're still in the League Cup. We're still in the Champions League. I would actually like us to get a good FA Cup run because I think that's the one competition.
Yeah, it was funny because in the beginning of the season, like I was saying, I almost said, let's make a run for the FA Cup. There's too much congestion in the fall. Let's focus on Champions League and the league, see where we get to, and then in the spring we can approach the FA Cup. But yeah.
I think we'll almost certainly go out of that though because we can't beat Bournemouth. Again, that's mentality. We have a shocking record. Eddie Howe's never won that fixture. Neither is Newcastle manager nor Bournemouth manager. Never, ever won that fixture. And
he won it once.
Once.
Off of an own goal.
There you go. So we need to hopefully somehow find a way of winning that one. Brighton are another bogey team that we just seem to, particularly at the Amex. I mean, we cannot buy a point at the Amex. So these are things that you've got to mentally get better at because teams that go and win league titles, teams that actually are competing every season with the big boys, don't have bogey teams that they can never take points off. They have teams that sometimes, it'll be 50-50 here or there. Chelsea, for example, we're a bit of a bogey team for them when they come to St James's. But they'll find ways of taking points sometimes. That's what we've got to find a way.
I'll end it with one last question. Try to be a little positive. For Newcastle, if you were to give one today, who would you give your man of the match to?
It would be a toss-up between Nick Woltemade and Lewis Miley. I mean, Woltemade scores 2 goals. You score 2 goals, you get a brace. You're entitled to think that you should go on and win the game. He should have had a hat-trick. He knows that himself, to be fair to him. But when you've put 2 away and it's 2-0, you can kind of allow him missing one. Miley was terrific at right back for a young lad who struggled there midweek to come back in again, and a night and day performance was impressive. He deserves a shout, but I think Woltemade for the 2 goals because that's how you respond to what happened to him last week. He's not wilted under the pressure. He's not crumbled away. He's just moved on. That'll get it out of his head now. And overall, that first half in particular, him and Anthony Gordon tore Chelsea apart. They really did. So, Woltemade probably the man of the match for me.
I'll go Miley. I agree with you. It's very close. I think Gordon gets an honorable mention, especially as much as I've been slating him. I think, we got to give credit where credit is due. He did do that performance. Let's hope that we see it again. That's the important thing that we see with Anthony Gordon. I think if we see that start continuously happening, then I feel very optimistic that we can turn things around. I think as frustrating as it is, there's still a lot of positives to take out of that game. We just need to be more consistent. And I think the biggest thing, you hit the nail on the head there in the end, is I think there is just a mentality aspect right now. I think there is a moment of like that free kick goes in, and I think you could see for about 5 minutes there was, oh, are you kidding me again? Like one thing seems to go wrong for us, and we seem to lose the plot sometimes for 5 minutes. And I think we need to just, have a Jedi mind wipe or something and just, listen, it happens. Sports, life is not fair. Sometimes things happen and you just got to keep going. So with that, I appreciate you. I appreciate Jake joining us earlier. He had to run. If you haven't already, thank you, and hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe. Thank you, Tino. Thank you, many of you guys active in the chat. We appreciate it. Please keep your notification bells clicked so that way you can see Lee's comment or content coming your way later today. Also, stay tuned. I don't know when it's coming, but obviously there will be a big, long video with all my travel adventures. As many of you know, I just got home from visiting Tyneside, so I'm still getting over the jet lag and everything as I'm back home. But it's been a good time. I want to thank Joe and Dale in particular and Lee for all their hospitality while I was over. But yeah, it's been another fun one. Unfortunately, not the best result, but it's been good chat with you, Connor. Hope to see you soon, and we will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.